Let me introduce you to Lesley A. Morrison. She's an author, freelance writer, and kitchen designer on Vancouver Island, Canada. She's been working with interiors for nearly 2 decades. Her passion for design has merged with her love of nature, producing an approach to both spiritual and practical with her www.lesleymorrison.com. And she has this beautiful new book out called In the Spirit of Home. And you guys know how much I'm all about home and magic within the home. So I cannot wait to get to know her. So welcome. Thank you so much, Lesley, for doing the show.
Thank you for having me. I'm very excited to meet you and be here and see how much wonderful things we can talk about.
Yes, yes. My thing and my listeners know that I'm all about home and but you're a real designer. You know this stuff, and you bring in all the magical and nature into it. So have they kind of always gone hand in hand? Where did you have this magical way of being, and then you were interior designer? Did one lead to the other? How did they get all combined?
In terms of that aspect, I mean, I started sort of the magical side of things when I was very young. My mom gave me my first tarot cards and runes, I think when I was 10 or even younger. So I always kind of had that mindset of looking at things from that spiritual nature-based side of things. And then gradually that did kind of work its way into my creative endeavors, and ultimately the way I approached home design or kitchen design or whatever I was working on at the time. So I think that was a foundation for leading up to how I've pretty much done everything in my life, was that experience with the pagan side of things very early on, for sure.
Beautiful. Again, just going through your book, you even talk about the right kind of home for yourself with the right fit of houses, from condos to cabins to all sorts of things. You incorporate things like feng shui and other modalities within that energy work of types. What do you think? And then you even have exercises. So I want to go through
Mhm.
some of this stuff. You have the art of feng shui, letting go of things, which that's hard for some of us, creating your physical space. Um, what are some of the things that you see that people get wrong in their houses? Let's start there before we get what's right. When somebody goes in, my life is a mess, and then do you walk in their house and see why?
Yeah, well, and usually a lot of people, and where I like to emphasize in this book in particular, was a lot of people don't stop to really look at or pay attention to how a space is feeling. And a lot of us, I mean, especially in interior design, it is such a visual industry, and we're caught up with images we see on Pinterest or magazines, and people really go after certain aspects of designing. But a lot of times I'll find that people will redo a room without actually thinking about how, if that's kind of synced up with how they're feeling and how they're living. And then what happens is that people end up with spaces that they don't use, but it looks pretty, but they may not even ever use it. So I see a lot of people focusing a lot on more how it looks instead of how it feels, making it personal. And a lot of people not really going through that exercise of space clearing ahead of time, which is why I kind of start the book that way. I think getting rid of old energy patterns is crucial before doing any kind of restructuring or redesigning or redecorating work, is getting rid of stuff that's old. And a lot of people will just throw the junk in the basement and go buy new stuff. But to me, that defeats the whole purpose of creating that positive space that flows and nourishes. And that's where I really see people skipping that step. And I think that nobody should go any further without going through that first set of space clearing exercises that I've got in the book, for sure.
So what are some of the things in small detail and not in large detail, some of the things that people can do? Because I know personally, I can get overwhelmed by something. I could look, some rooms are perfect and they're great. And another room going, I wouldn't even know where to start.
Yeah.
Energetically, literally, physically, spiritually along
Yeah.
the way. So do you have suggestions for ways to even get started with that within your
Oh, for
exercises?
sure. Yeah, and I think what you said there is, a lot of times we just get it to that point where we don't want to deal with it, and then we start to get all these psychological hurdles that come along with it. But I always suggest, start slow. And if you need to bring in someone to help you, I mean, really assess what first you can be comfortable giving away or donating or throwing out. So one room at a time. What is it you're not using? Like, why is this still in a box? Why am I still, why do I have clothes that don't fit me, or clothes that I haven't worn in 5 years? And it's more like an honest assessment of looking at what's there. Bring it out, put it all over the floor and look at it and say, I don't need this. This is broken. And get those boxes. You see it on all the shows, separating the keep, the donate, and the, boxes. But it really is true. And doing that is such an uplifting experience. And it brings your energy that much higher, because you're acknowledging that things are there, and maybe things have memories attached to them that you maybe need to deal with that too. Why do I still have this? What is it that's stopping me from letting that go? So the purpose of these exercises is to really get you aware, get you to become aware of what's going on in your space, why you're holding on to things. But those are really easy ways to do. I mean, I say easy, but they're not always easy. But getting started with that and breaking it down into what you can donate or throw out, or repurpose if you really want to keep something. It is, to me, a very simple way of getting that process going.
Okay, that's good. That's, I guess, the one to start with. So I know also, because I'm a really elemental girl, I'm an elemental witch. Element is kind of the main everything of my practice over everything. So how do you incorporate elements into, I know in the pagan compass, there's air and fire and water and earth, and we could add spirit. And in the feng shui, you go into like metals and woods and things. So how do you incorporate that? Do you do it room by room with what people want, or?
Yeah, and that's important to pay attention to as well. I mean, some people will respond differently to, say, wood elements. Not everybody wants a house full of plants or heavy woods, and not everybody wants to put a water feature in their home. Or so you really have to make that a personal experience. So if you're doing this yourself, it is really, tune into what elements you draw maybe inspiration from or draw power from, but keeping in mind that it's always good to have a balance there. So if I'm the type of person that has a lot of wood in my house. I'm very strong with wood and plants and earth elements like that, but I tend to not balance the water side of it as well. So it's keeping in mind that and it doesn't necessarily have to be a big fountain in your house. If you want to add water, you can just add certain colors or mirrors that maybe give off a reflective energy. But just little things like that help you add each of the elements in. And it doesn't have to be crazy. It can just be the color of something, like a blue throw cushion or a blue feature wall. And then it gives you that kind of that essence of the element. So there's little ways that you can add elemental energy in without necessarily bringing that whole element into the house. So, and that's really where the personal, because everyone's going to respond differently. Some people would love to have a waterfall flowing through their house, obviously, but not everybody has access to these things. So that's why making small personal choices is a good idea. So add a plant or add a mirror, or add something metal, just to bring in those energies. And that can be assessed room by room for sure. But looking at the overall practicality of it as well, and making sure the house has a little bit of everything to balance that out.
Okay. In your book, again, you have a bunch of exercises. You go into meditations, because again, somebody could go, I don't know what element I need. I don't know what I'm missing or what I have or where I'm going. So again, you go into like color meditations and space clearing meditation. So in my world, that's all about awareness and then intent and then creating from there. So.
And especially with color, I mean, a lot of times we end up using colors, or we're drawn to colors, and maybe we attach ourselves to a certain color. And I had this conversation with a lot of people about picking a strong color for a room and then realizing that it changes sort of your whole physiological, response, or putting the wrong color in a bedroom can create terrible dreams. Or so it's really about, like you said, an awareness of how does that actually make me feel? And not a lot of people, I think, take that step. in finding that awareness before they start decorating a certain way, and then finding out at the end that it doesn't feel right and it doesn't suit them and it doesn't really line up with who they are right now, or they're living with things that they've had years ago that just don't match the energy that they're working with at that time. So it is really about awareness, from my personal perspective, and making sure that you have the things in your home that suit you now and where you are kind of energetically.
That is good. Again, that is what I'm loving about this book as I just discover it now, going, yeah, because people, again, I'm just speaking from experience, you get overwhelmed. What are some of your ideas? Again, I do a lot of clearings on houses. I go in energetic clearings and you walk in and you see why. I'll even know more once I read your book. But what are some of the things that you suggest for bedrooms, or big mistakes people do with bedrooms?
The bedrooms in particular I often see are one of the most neglected areas, and it always surprises me, because and I think a lot of people think that maybe they don't spend a lot of time in there during the day, so it's not that important. I see the bedrooms getting used to, store laundry or exercise equipment, or they're just using whatever blankets that, a lot of people just make that room, that's just someplace they go to sleep, but they don't realize that that kind of neglect can actually impact your health to a great degree. So I do recommend a lot of times, if you're going to start anywhere, start with the bedroom. Because it really is a place where you're going to restore that energy every night, and it should be a peaceful place. I don't recommend going in and working and then working out in the bedroom and then going to bed. But I mean, I realize not everybody has the luxury of a lot of space, but there are definitely ways where you can separate that space, so that your bed and where you sleep is a peaceful, calm place, and that's hugely important. So that is something that I have seen a lot, and it should not ever be overlooked, in my opinion.
I know that you do in different places mention mirrors. What's your thought on mirrors, good, bad, and indifferent energetically, and how to use or not use them?
I like mirrors because they really open space up. So like if you've got, especially in apartments or really small entryways, mirrors are used quite a lot to give the appearance of more space. So that can be a really nice way to open space up and kind of bring light in. And obviously mirrors have very magical qualities as well, but anyone just looking to enhance physical space, it's a great way to make space look bigger than it is. And feng shui in particular uses mirrors quite a bit in different placements for that reason. And it also does represent the element of water. So it can be used for that water cure. I know feng shui has a lot of rules about mirrors maybe facing each other, and they shouldn't face certain directions. So anyone that's going to employ those methods, do a bit more research and reading on feng shui. I'm not a feng shui practitioner, so I do recommend that people go and buy books or read more in-depth articles on that before employing it. But mirrors can be really transformative things, and the way they reflect light and bring things in, or even reflect beautiful things. So reflecting a nice view, or reflecting, something beautiful outside is a really nice way to enhance that kind of the energy of things.
Yeah, I agree. Mirrors. I have a lot of mirrors in my home. I grew up, my mom had a lot of mirrors. We had a kind of a smallish home, and my mom just thought mirrors were magic. She wasn't even necessarily a witchy or pagan kind of person. She just felt the magic of mirrors. So I almost now walk into a house, it's like, there's not a mirror in this whole house. It's closing in on me. It's closing in. And then I go next step is like enchant those mirrors and
No, that's absolutely true. And then obviously that magic quality for those that actually know how to use them in that way, for sure. It's a nice feature to have, and but I think they do have to be used properly. I don't think they should just be grouped where they're all kind of facing each other and energy doesn't have anywhere to go. But the proper use of mirrors can be quite transformative.
Good. Also, one of my places that I always want to be like sanctuary, like, are bathrooms. So I know you have a chapter on that. What's some of your suggestions for and about, bathroom areas?
Bathrooms, I think more people, I think, are realizing the importance of the bathroom. I've seen a lot of people spend a lot of money on bathroom renovations, and I think it's more that realization of that it is a place where you cleanse yourself. And if you go back to a lot of ancient cultures, bathing was very sacred, and is a very important process in life, is the cleansing and restoring yourself. And I think to kind of add those elements into the bathroom is, I always recommend making sure everything's in working order for starters. Run down bathtubs or toilets that don't work and things like that. That's sort of energetically sending, that it's like a blocked energy. I think having everything in working order is a good thing. Making sure you've got fresh, clean towels and you're not using ripped old towels. So again, it's that image of self-care I think the bathroom represents. But I also think that it's either one of those places people splurge on or they neglect, and it's finding that, it is a place where you take care of yourself at the end of, and you're in there quite a lot. So, but it's about, I think, self-care and presenting self-image, and having fine things and splurging on things and having sort of that spa-like experience. And you don't need to go crazy. I mean, you can just purchase. I regularly go out and buy all natural bath soaps and bubble baths that are, chemical free, but they smell great. And I'll kind of splurge on things like that for my bathroom, just because it's a treat, and it makes you feel that you're worthy of pampering yourself. So I think little things like that for the bathroom, a nice fluffy bath mat, just a nice cozy place to go and have a bath and cleanse yourself. Just little things like that can do wonders for you.
Good. I agree wholeheartedly. I know you also do talk about kids' rooms. I work with people with kids. What's some of your suggestions for kids? Those people
So I myself have worked with a lot of kids. I have kids, so I do have a genuine understanding of the importance of keeping that space tidy. I know it's like the hardest thing ever, but it really does make a difference. I think in the way they are able to rest at night. I also believe that keeping a kid's room calm and color-wise, I do recommend in the book to limit the bright colors in kids' rooms, because I think as parents and guardians, it's up to us to kind of teach them the value of sleep at a young age. It's important to teach them that they can turn that crazy busy energy of the day off, but we have to give them a space for that. So I do recommend that a child has, and even if they have to have toys in their room, make sure that they've got proper storage to keep it tidy and put away, because they do need to learn the value of a place to rest at the end of the day, and they will carry that through as they get older, and we need to teach them that. But if we're putting them to bed in rooms that are full of bright colors, and I just know personally of kids that have not done well in those situations, because they need to bring it down the same way we do, even more so because they're so high energy and they're very receptive. And I think it's important to let kids pick their colors as well, and get them involved in that process, because they're going to know which colors activate them and which colors bring them down. So I do encourage that people let kids become a part of that process in making their space.
That's great, because kids do certainly have opinions on what they like and don't like. And they somewhat change as we go. But I'll walk into somebody's homes to do what I do, and they're almost always apologetic. Well, sorry, it's my kid's room. Whether it's their teenager or the little ones, or along the way, they almost walk in with this whole apologetic nature to them. It's like, it's okay.
Yeah. And I think back to my own childhood, and I was one of those really strange children that had to clean everything. I was very compulsive in keeping my space neat, but I was sensitive to that, like really early on. And if I didn't have a clean, tidy space, it would affect me on very deep levels. So I've always grown up that way, just out of my own necessity. But I think it's important for us to encourage that to some degree. I think it will help children when they're older to understand those things a bit better.
Right. And that's interesting about bright colors, because it's true. I walk in a lot. They're going primary red, primary, bright, crazy, which is probably great for a playroom, but not if that's their playroom and their bedroom and where they're supposed to go do their homework, perhaps.
Exactly. And that's that fine balance of that child maybe won't be restful at the end of the day if everything's happening in that space, and it's they maybe can't turn it off very well. So and again, not everybody can accommodate different rooms for kids, and I totally understand that. But if it's going to be a neutral place, it should probably be a bit more neutral in terms of color, and just to help them stay on a kind of an even playing field.
Beautiful. Yeah. Looking through. Also, you do talk about, and which is more and more and more since the pandemic. I mean, it has been, is home workspaces. A lot of people don't hardly even leave their house anymore. Even jobs that could go back to work. I know so many people now they stay home and do it, or 3 days a week they stay home and do it. So, what suggestions do you have for home workspaces?
Basically, I mean, if you are working from home and you maybe don't have a home office, not everybody does. I think it's important to have a space somewhere that you've kind of psychologically designated where you're going to work. Some people work well on the couch, you know, if you don't have a bunch of stuff going around. Some people are really good working that way, and that's totally fine. But it is a personal experience. Some people can't focus when they've got, you know, things buzzing around, people buzzing around in the kitchen around them. So definitely pay attention to what your needs are from a, you know, a psychological point of view and mental focus aspect. And if you can designate a space where that's just where you work and nobody else comes and sits and works there, and kids don't come and eat there, you know, if possible. I do think it's helpful to be mindful of that and just to have a space, because then when you get up and walk away, you can kind of detach yourself from that because you're not walking around the house on your laptop and taking it with you. So there has to be, yeah. And some people are good that way. And design and decorating is such a personal process. And that's sort of my foundation for the book, is that you really have to look at how you need your space and how you need to make your space work for you, because everybody will respond differently. But in general, I find that a lot of people will work better if they can just have a space and then walk away from it at the end of the day.
That is beautiful. Well, before we go, do you have a couple little, like, these are my top 3 ideas for just like quick fixes and things for people, or suggestions, or what we see? Because I want everybody to go get this book, but I just give them a teaser.
So one of my personal favorite things to do for a quick refresh, I'm one of those people that will change things up a little bit with a season change. So when we go from summer to, you know, fall, or fall to winter, winter to spring, it's nice to just change things up a little bit. Oftentimes I'll just do like throw blankets or throw pillows, or, you know, switch up the duvet cover on my bed, and change things around like that. Those can really give you, it's a quick boost, it's a quick energy lift, and it really does change the space. So little things like that don't necessarily have to cost a lot of money, but it helps you kind of tune into the elements you're working with in the time of year. So that's one of my favorites. Another one is for the kitchen. I always recommend people really get in there and get involved in kitchen organization, getting your things tidy, get rid of broken dishes, you know, pots that you're not using. Give it a good overhaul at least once a year, and make sure you've got proper organization in your kitchen so that you can function properly, and you'll always know where to find everything. And again, my biggest one is the space clearing. You know, just get rid of it if it's old, before you're going to go buy new stuff, and you'll feel so good at the end of the day. You'll feel so good getting rid of that stuff. I make donations, I think, twice a year, so that tells you that I probably always got something that doesn't work. You know, I donate boxes of clothes because there's no need to have them there. So those, I think, are 3 of my favorite ones. And we're coming up for fall, so it's a good time to do a fall refresh and get some cozy elements back into the house. So yeah, just go with the seasons, go with the flow of what nature's doing, and try and incorporate that into your house somehow.
Right, which intrigues me. I live in Southern California where we don't really have seasons, so it's always lovely. But I only know one person, one of my dear friends, who actually does exactly what you say. The duvet cover changes, the pillows changes. There's the summer feeler, the spring feeler, that was such a new concept to me. I understand decorating for the seasons. Here's your decor for whether it's for each thing, but like change of that, it's like it's something I'm now going to incorporate. That was a whole new
Mhm.
idea for me. So
Yep.
it'll give us seasons here in those places we don't have them.
Yeah, and it can also stop you. I mean, for somebody that really likes to design, it can kind of stop that sense of boredom with it's
Yeah.
just a little bit of a change every now and again. So I'll tend to keep a few different duvet covers or styles floating around. Then if I just want to change something up, it's a nice way to just feel like you've really done something without maybe spending a lot of money.
That is beautiful. So everybody, you've got to get this book, In the Spirit of Home, Practical Ways to Create Your Perfect Haven. So tell everybody where they can find you, where they can get your book, anything you have coming up, social media.
You
Let
can
us.
find me primarily on my website, so www.lesleyamorrison.com. This book is available through Llewellyn Worldwide is the publisher, but it's also available on Amazon, Indigo, Barnes and Noble, pretty much anywhere online that you can purchase books, you will find this book. I am going to be I have a lot of podcast events that I have done and webinars that I will be uploading as well, so people can view some of my work. And Llewellyn also has a lot of my blog posts and articles up there as well. But most of this stuff will be on my website. I am on social media, on Twitter, Lesley A Home, and Instagram as well.
Okay. So thank you so much for coming on. Again, you guys check it out. Besides, she's got a little black cat right there. So what could be wrong? So thank you, Lesley, for bringing your magic to our magic. And so everybody go make your home magic. Thank you for visiting the Witching Hour.